Hi, and welcome back to the Unfinished Journey podcast, where we say whatever the fuck we want because it's our journey, like it or not. I am Cindy, and with me, as always, is Gabriella. Hi, Gabriella.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi. Today we're going to be talking about something that's both near and dear to both of our hearts, but we have very different takes on it, and I'm going to let you get started on that in a minute. But I want to just we're talking about plant medicine today, or healing with plant medicine, and I wanted to just throw it out there, a disclaimer really quick that, you know, plant medicine can be like a valuable component to our holistic health and but also to be responsible. And if you have any kind of healthcare professional that you are seeing, like maybe it would be a good idea to talk to them first before trying out any of our suggestions, um, because neither one of us are certified holistic doctors or MDs. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Gabriella, and I would like to know what her take on what do you think about when I say healing with plant medicine, and what's your take on that?
Yes, absolutely. So when I think about plant medicine, I immediately go to ayahuasca and psilocybin. And then I also think about the power of herbs as it relates to, topical ointments or teas. But yeah, that's what I usually uh, go to. Like that's the first thing that comes to mind. What about you?
My approach, like I said earlier, is a little bit different. I think immediately go to using plants to heal. So like using like oregano oil for fungal stuff, or honey and garlic for like coughs and things like that.
Mhm.
Herbal remedies just in general, to heal my body when it's not feeling well, and also preventive care, to make sure that my body doesn't get to that point. Also we talked about in a previous podcast, like healing through food, and that's how it all ties together for me. But I'm interested in hearing more about the psychedelic plant healing that you have talked about, because I think that both, it's a marrying of like for mind and body, and they both have a place, but I'm not as familiar as you are with that. So why don't you tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, so I believe that using plant medicine like ayahuasca, psilocybin, it can be extremely beneficial for people that are looking to heal severe trauma and or PTSD. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're talking about sexual abuse. It could be, like a really narcissistic parent or, abusive, mental and verbal abusive relationship with a ex-partner. And or it could just be a very overbearing teacher, right? Trauma and PTSD can be experienced um, on a spectrum. And I think that plant medicine like ayahuasca and psilocybin have their place in a holistic healing modality and experience and journey. And for me, um, I've experimented with both, and ayahuasca done in the right environment with the right shaman or the right practitioner can be extremely powerful, and it could really like support you into releasing emotional hangups and trauma that you may be holding. It supports um, creating a different outlook on life and really bringing into awareness that we're all fundamentally um, looking for love and looking to experience love. And yeah, and it's a really beautiful way. It could be I don't know. Think of it as, there's a therapy and the very traditional way of healing, and then there's like plant medicine and ayahuasca. And if you're doing it with the right intention, um, it could have like an exponential effect on you, and the release could be extremely cathartic. And that could be done, in one or two sessions or one or two sittings versus like spending, decades or years in therapy. Again, doing it with the right person is extremely important and highly recommended.
Awesome. Do you want to, are you comfortable with maybe talking a little bit about your personal experience with
Yeah.
ayahuasca or
Yeah. So ayahuasca is, they refer to it as the grandmother plant of all plants, and la abuela, the grandmother, right? And it has a very beautiful energy that requires you to surrender to its wisdom fully. So my first experience, I did not surrender. And it was very intense. And towards the end of the journey, I decided to surrender, and it was beautiful, right? But like a lot of people experience purging, and the purging aspect for me, it was like the most cathartic experience I've ever had. Even in the first experience, like when I was purging, I felt like I was releasing like all the toxicity and BS that I've ingested over my lifetime. And it just felt so good to be clear of it and released of it. And, fast forward a couple of years later, then I had the opportunity to do it again. The first time was in Panama on the beach, was a tribal gathering of lots of different indigenous tribes, and it was really beautiful, and it was a really neat experience. And then the second time was in a San Diego garage that was very beautifully decorated, but nevertheless a garage. And that experience was incredible. I felt like I was connecting with women from this lifetime, and then from women from across the planet. Like, just, it felt like an initiation of love, and like connecting with all the wisdom before me and after me and in the present. And it was just incredible. And I think that um, when you're doing an ayahuasca ceremony, when you're experiencing that, the integration period could be, a couple months, it could be years. Like, I feel like you're continuously integrating, and by letting go of all the things that no longer serve you, of all the pain or trauma and scars that you've accumulated over your lifetime, you're allowing for other experiences to come in and to experiment, to elevate you, to support you in living your purpose. So yeah, I think anything and everything happens for a reason. So the the events that followed the ayahuasca ceremonies have been incredible. So I think that had I not been open to doing the ceremony, ayahuasca ceremony, I wouldn't be on the path that I am today in my life, and who I am today and who I became. And then you have psilocybin, or psychedelic mushrooms. That's a little different. It has more of a masculine energy, and I'm not super well versed into it, although I have experienced it several times, and definitely helps with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And it also supports you into experiencing and looking at life from a different perspective, from a more, cerebral perspective. you know, there's a lot of different kinds of mushrooms, and they each have different effects on the way that you interact with them. So there's a lot of people that use it for recreational purposes, and you have people that are really enjoying it and it's fun. And then there's people that use it to, similar to ayahuasca, to let go of depression, anxiety, and PTSD, and also just to reassess where you are, right? It has a bit of a different energy, and yet on one of the ceremonies that I did have with psilocybin, it it really almost had an effect similar to ayahuasca. Like, I felt the ayahuasca energy come through. They do say that psilocybin, or magic mushrooms, are the children of Mother Ayahuasca. So I was like, oh, this is so serendipitous, and this is very neat, although I did not expect it, right? But ever since I've started being in ayahuasca ceremonies, I started looking at plants from a place of reverence, and not what they could do for me per se, but just surrendering and having the intention to to experience what is for my highest good, right? Like, intention is everything. It's everything with ayahuasca, with psilocybin. It's super important to have a pure intention that comes from the heart, just like with anything that you get to create. So, yeah.
100%. So, many cultures have a rich history of using plant medicine for healing. Like you mentioned, indigenous communities, for example, they've developed, profound knowledge about the healing properties of local plants over the generations that they live there. So I think that it's super important to acknowledge and respect the cultures and traditions, and also like and preserving them in the way that you do with ceremonies and getting to know them. But it was, as you were speaking, I was also thinking back to like early colonial America, right, where the women who were practicing plant medicine, the way that I see it, in healing, was accused of being witches, or and burned at the stake or whatever, for healing people using, quote unquote magic, because it was maybe something people weren't used to. So I was wondering if you thought that, like, I'm trying to calculate this in my head right now, but I see a parallel between, like, ayahuasca and like the psychedelic um plants, and like that aspect of our American history, right? Getting kind of in the same token where it's kind of looked down upon,
Mm.
when really it's just like a healing thing. And so I'm trying to formulate in my head right now a theory, but I was thinking about how it was bringing me back to like big pharma, right? If plants can heal anything. I believe that the universe has put everything we need to heal our body on the earth, and it's up to us to figure it out and find out what works and what doesn't. But by making, hallucinogenic plants have a bad name, and like also saying that like holistic plant medicine is also has a bad name, it's like witchcraft or whatever, like it made way for like pharmaceuticals to come in and like take over, and be able to make everything synthetic and like everything full of chemicals. And I was like, what do you think about that? Do you think, like, am I onto a theory that might be sustainable, or it seems like the most natural things that help us the most somehow become wrong or illegal, or like looked down upon, and in our culture. And I'm curious to know your take on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that theory, and I don't think it's a theory. I think it's a fact. And as you're talking, I was thinking, this came to me. I was in Peru a couple of years ago studying ayahuasca and other plants, and something that gets taken away and not really emphasized anymore is, every plant has a spirit. And, by making them artificial and synthesizing them, you're taking away the spirit and the connection. And that's really like where the power is, right? Like connecting with every living thing and living plant and asking it for healing and giving it thanks, because it's not just wisdom that you're getting from it, but it's also like their healing properties that they're sharing with you. um, and by you know cooking them and breaking them down and making them into pharma type medication, it's taking away that connection. And um, it may have a similar effect, but then you're losing the spiritual aspect of it, which I think is very powerful.
Yeah, I agree. I think we talked about in uh one of our healing conversations about plants having, like, everything has a natural defense mechanism, right? So
Mhm.
like animals will attack, or even insects will attack, or humans will attack, but plants, they don't really have anything except for to put off like poison, right? They, or like to alter their chemistry because they can't physically attack. And so if we're just like willy-nilly, just like chopping vegetables or herbs off at their knees essentially and not giving it any kind of love or respect, then it's going to try to protect itself by hurting us. Stick with
Exactly.
me for a second. So, like, there's like scientific proof. There's totally scientific proof that if you talk and nurture a plant and show it love and respect, then it will grow bigger. It will grow bigger blooms. It will grow bigger fruit. It will grow bigger vegetables. Insert whatever bigger there, right? But if you talk bad to it, it's going to die. So, there's a lot to be said in these ancient communities, not just indigenous to America, but ancient like Druid communities or Viking communities or European communities that use these, African communities that are still to this day using these things and like respecting the earth, respecting the plants, respecting what the universe has put on the earth for us to use, and then getting the benefits from those things. Um, I mean, I can go on and on about this because, like I cook everything from scratch. I make everything from scratch. I grow what I can. I do. We've talked about this before, but I think that and also when I eat, I like thank the universe for the food that is put on my plate or the whatever. But, just I think we have gotten so far away from um what food actually is and what it could do for our bodies that are, any kind of plants, animals, whatever, that that because like the gratitude is not there anymore, and like food has not it doesn't have the same healing properties as it once did. Um, people used to have to cultivate the earth, used to have to grow their own stuff, grow their own medicine, grow their own food. And, you know, there's a lot of medicine to be had within animals as well. That's a topic for another day. But it's we've gotten so far removed from us cultivating our own food and medicine that like it's so easy to just go to the grocery store and pick up, meat or vegetables and like not think about where it comes from. Like I know kids who are like, 10, 11, 12 years old who don't know that like chicken comes from a bird because it's just in cutlets or nuggets at the grocery store, right? So like putting together that a chicken is chicken, or putting together like something along those lines. And I was thinking about too, our medicine used to be sold as herbs, right? Like apothecary was big thing back in the day, and people were selling herbs and for healing properties. And one of the biggest examples and like mind blowers for me that kind of tilted my view on I'm going to get your take on this in a second because I want to hear what you have to say about was aspirin. People, they're like, oh, take an aspirin, take an aspirin, take an aspirin for pain relief. But like really it's masking the pain and you don't really know when it's gone. It's just like, oh well, whatever. But um doing some research, I realized that like white willow bark used to be sold as pain relief, and that all that is like bark from a fucking tree, right? And why am I going to take a bunch of poison and chemicals when I can take something from the earth and it has the same effect, and it will also help me know when my pain is gone and like what I need to do to relieve that pain or fix that pain instead of just keep masking it until like full of chemicals and poison. Um, so it led me to the conclusion that really all of these things have been kind of leading up to big pharma just trying to turn everything into chemicals, keep us sick, keep us um, ill-informed, keep us away from um, the natural order of things, right? Like we were
Mhm.
meant to like cultivate the earth, put our hands in the dirt and make our stuff. And I really feel that. Like I just had this conversation with my trainer the other day because I've been having trouble with my right arm. And I realized it's because I bake and I cook so much like from scratch that like my arm is starting to hurt because I like to feel the food as I'm making it. So I don't use an electric mixer. I don't use a stand mixer. I use my hands. I use my hands for the grains. I use my hands to like to make everything. And there's a lot to be said. I feel like it connects you more to your food, but I guess I'm digressing. So my question for you is, what do you think? Do you think that this has all been a progression to get everything synthetic? Like it's all been a progression so that big pharma can make money, can all be a progression for, big companies to make all this money on us, like and keep us sick. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, 100%. You're preaching to the choir here. I Yeah, it's you know also all this pandemic, like when the pandemic hit like a couple years ago, the 6 foot rule, like that's also like something that they they campaigned for the purpose of disconnecting us from each other. So it's just like, how can the powers to be disconnect us from everything that provides connection and nurture and community and healing, so that we could be exploited to the highest possible degree. So yeah, no, I it's it's unfortunate, and I know that a lot more people are waking up to that fact, and they're realizing what's happening, and they're advocating for more natural remedies and holistic approaches, and going back and learning how to connect with plants, how to connect with the earth, and really feel connected, because AI is increasingly popular, and that's another reason why I think it's so imperative to be connected to the planet, to ground, to be connected to your food, and to really know all the miraculous things that it could provide you. Like, we don't need pharma. We really don't. Everything that we could possibly need for healing is at our fingertips, and all we have to do is become aware and remember all the amazing properties that it has and that it could provide us, right? It's all about going back to our original wisdom and connection to the earth.
Farms, not pharma.
Sorry, not pharma.
No, farms, not, I said farms,
Yeah,
not
farms,
pharma.
not pharma. Yes.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that the plant medicine definitely like helps with the mind body connection, and like certain plants have certain properties that help your body naturally adapt to like the stressors in life and adapt to different viruses and different pollutions in the air. And also, the plants can help restore balance in your body, and it can and help your immune system and your hormones and digestion and your gut and whatever the thing is now. Um, also I wanted to touch upon like plant medicine is also super sustainable, right? Because what does it take to plant like a fucking herb garden, right? It takes like a box in your window in your kitchen. You live in an apartment, you could do it. You live in a house, you could do it. You live on a freaking cardboard box in the street, like you could do it, right? It's not a big deal to have just like an herb garden. Um, and then it's also like an herb garden that you have all the things that you can heal yourself. It's also not then needing giant labs to build all these poisonous pills that everybody seems so interested in having. And also, I think it also goes back to instant gratification, right? Like holistic healing takes a little bit, but it cures what ails you, right? It's not just masking something so then another problem happens. And I think that's a big problem too in pharma, not farms, is you take a pill and it has like a laundry list of side effects, right? And like really your body will like poop out what it doesn't need from natural things, right? Like you take too much vitamin C, you're going to poop it out or pee it out, whatever. Your body's going to get rid of it naturally and it's not going to cause you long-term effects. Like I can't believe some of these like commercials for drugs and it's got like all these things. I'm like, I wouldn't want to take that like to get rid of like psoriasis or yeah, psoriasis. It's like could cause like death. Like it could end in death. Like why like just freaking change your shampoo. Like I don't know, something or like change your lotion, try some tallow. Like why is it so extreme? Um but I uh I also think like cultivating your own medicine and learning how to heal your body and your mind like gives you some sort of personal empowerment in terms of your health, right? And so like being in control of your wellness and your wellness journey is super empowering because you know how your body's going to react to something. You don't need, doctor whatever to tell you that you know, A plus B, well, don't even get me into that whole thing. Like, and Western medicine is not set up to heal you. It's set up to make you a customer. But, if A plus B doesn't equal C, then like they don't know what to do for you. And there's like, here, keep trying drugs. But, if you can start taking some personal responsibility into your wellness journey, then, you're going to know what your body's going to react to things and what will help your body heal and help your body feel better. Um, I think that's super important too. And we talked a little bit about, preventative care too. You're if like eating things that are plants that are nutrient rich will help keep you healthy. Like I know for me, like there's a reason why you crave things, right? Like for me, I've been craving like friggin' salad. Like I just want like fresh vegetables and I've been craving that a lot. So I was like, oh, my body, it triggered my mind to be like, my body is missing something like what do I need to start putting into my like daily diet to not be craving fresh like vegetables and herbs because there's something wrong. So just checking in with myself a lot. Um I would like to say that there's like a there's like plant medicine and conventional medicine or like Western medicine. They have a both have a place, but really I think I'm convinced that the only benefit to Western medicine is if you break a bone, they are really good at setting it. And that's pretty much the extent of their knowledge that they've gotten down really well. But other than that, nutrition, no, like doctors don't even learn nutrition in medical school. Like, I don't understand that. Like, it's just crazy to me. But,
Yeah.
they don't learn how to like heal with anything other than prescription medication. And I think that's really sad. But thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. I took a Purdue course on nutrition, and I think I've told you about it before, but literally like two-thirds of the course, I was just so depressed and like demoralized because they were talking about all the Western practices. And I don't know, sometime in like the 1920s, the medical board or whoever was in charge of how you practice medicine, they just decided to take out nutrition. Or like they did a very like general, a very high level overview of nutrition, and that's it. And so, yeah, it's they're not able to support you. And so when we talk about plant medicine, I think like Eastern modalities, like, like acupuncture and Chinese medicine, it's all based on plants, and there's so many herbs that they could give you to bring balance. And when you talk about like hormonal balance, the same thing, like you could achieve it through plants. Adrenal fatigue you could cure through plants. There's just like an innumerate number of diseases or like conditions that you can address easily with plants. And of course, like you said, it takes a little bit of time. It's not immediate, but then you won't experience death or strokes or any other side effects that you get from pharma. I wanted to bring this up, and it may not necessarily be for this episode. We could talk about it in more depth some other time. But birth control, that
Don't
all
get me started. Don't get me
there's
started.
there's
Don't get
like
me started.
there's this book called The Fifth Signal, and like I'm doing my best to read through it, and it's just so horrifying, all the side effects that are related to Western ways of having birth control. And these are things that we're giving to teenage girls, and like it affects them for life. Or like it creates such bad conditions and side effects that ultimately leads to their death, cancer, like all these things. So yeah,
Hormonal imbalance,
so many
cortisol
things,
level problems,
all the things.
infertility. Seems like it's a great way to regulate the population, no? Um, yeah. So anyways, plant medicine. I think we need to like maybe we could ask our listeners if they'd like to hear a podcast on birth control, the dangers and or side effects of synthetic hormones. It's essentially synthetic hormones in your body that's fucking your system up. Um,
Mhm.
so I don't know, maybe if they want to hear something like that, we'll go ahead and do a whole episode on that because
Yeah, and all the hormonal supplementation they recommend for premenopause and menopause, it's yeah, it's
it,
highly
well,
disturbing.
we should totally talk about that too, because I'm in a situation now. I'm 45 years old, and everybody keeps saying like, "Oh, you're gonna start premenopausal soon. You're gonna be premenopausal soon," and I'm like, I've never done any kind of birth control, never altered my hormones in any way. I've also never had kids, so my hormones didn't get jumbled from all of that. But I also like I think there's something to be said about that. Like my menopause for me is going to look a lot different than menopause did for my mom. It's going to look a lot different than did to my aunts because they all have altered their hormones. And I'm having no problems. I'm also active, and there's other aspects to that too. Um, but yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, and maybe that's a topic for another day. I'm glad you brought that up because I will get on my soapbox 100% and talk about that. But um, is there anything left you want to say? Any closing thoughts on holistic medicine or plant medicine? Sorry.
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about what's healthy in previous episodes, and we're going to continue talking about it. But when it comes to incorporating plants and having a plant-based diet, I think there's a time and place for everything. So if you have a specific condition, then maybe eating a primarily plant-based diet is for you. And it could be like ebbs and flows and cycles through life. I'm not advocating for 100% plant-based diet and food, and sometimes that may be necessary to address and correct certain conditions that you're experiencing, right? So just like everything, I think plant-based medicine, be it psychedelic or food, has a time and place. And it's good to be open and flexible to the possibility of using it at the right time.
Awesome. Awesome. So that wraps up our latest episode. And if you guys would be so kind as to like and subscribe, or whatever you're listening to, whatever format you're listening to it on, whatever there is to do that. Um, we are looking forward to bringing you more and more content. I also wanted to mention to you that if you wanted to look into more of what Gabriella has to offer and what she does on a regular basis, you can find her stuff um, at there's on her Instagram is it Gabriella Phoenix or is it Phoenix Medicine?
Phoenix medicine.
It's
Mhm.
At Phoenix Medicine, and there will be a link tree for you to find all of her exciting stuff. And for me, I am at The Worth Warrior, and also there's a link tree on there that you can find all of the exciting stuff that I'm working on. So until next time, we'll see you soon.